Hey guys, we are back with another Elite Coach Live, bringing you top information on a weekly basis to help you in your journey into becoming the elite coach that you want to become. If you listen to us on Spotify, make sure that you do ring the bell so you can keep in touch with all the episodes that come out on a weekly basis. If you watch us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, make sure you hit that like button, even share it if you think there's some valuable information that'll help others on their journey as well. So today, guys, we've got a quick fire round. We're going to be fielding some questions from the Great Elite Coach Network. We've had some fantastic questions, so we thought we'd fire them in. And who better to get them answered than Mr. Brendan Chaplin? How are we doing, sir? We all good?
Good morning, Steve. Yeah, great. Thanks. Really good. Excited for this 5-in-5 format.
There we go. There we go. So, guys, what we're going to do is we've got 5 questions, and rather than just us rambling on for forever and a day, which I think we've got a tendency to do every now and again. What we're going to do is we're actually going to stick 5 minutes on the clock, and we've only got 5 minutes to get these questions answered. So hopefully we can make it as concise as we possibly can, which I think will be a struggle for us, mate. I think it will be a struggle, but we'll try and get there. But before we get started, mate, how's your week been so far, mate? Everything all good?
Yeah, it's been a very busy week this week, and I am doing this, as you know, Steve, this sort of self-induced content challenge. So over on my Instagram and other platforms, but predominantly Instagram, I'm posting every day, building back the habit of creating content. So it's actually not keeping me too busy, but it's another consideration. But I'm really enjoying it, and it's just good to get some feedback and contribute and serve in that way again, Steve, to be honest with you. Yeah. So yeah, check it out, everyone, if you haven't already.
Absolutely. Before we jump straight in, mate, what would you say has been the biggest consideration? Is it just the fact that you've had to plan something else for the day? And how have you gone to kind of about that? Have you said, right, I've got to get it done by this time, or what's your sort of plan, or is it just see what happens kind of thing?
So the way that I've done it is I've said I want to post something every day, and I think there's pros and cons in that, because if you had a really busy day, or if you, let's say you haven't got anything interesting to say today, then you might not post anything, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. However, I'm doing it for a different reason. I'm doing it to build a habit, number one, and just to basically have. We always talk about it. We're going to do something on the Elite Coach Challenge next week about pilot projects and giving yourself projects to get learnings from. So how I've done it is I've had a notes app open with ideas. I mean, I've always had that open anyway, for years, little observations and things like that. So I go through that to get ideas, and I've been posting a real variety of things. So gone quite broad to start with, as opposed to just posting about training or just posting about business and stuff like that. And that's hit the mark with some people and it hasn't with others, and that's fine. And if people don't like it, they can unfollow me, and if people like it, they can follow me. Simple as that. The beauty of social media. So yeah, there hasn't really been a rhyme and reason other than notes app transferred into another note of this week, content themes this week, key points this week, and then anything other than anything that falls outside of that, I'm sharing stuff, I'm commenting on things, and so on. So yeah, no sort of real structure, just a commitment to it.
And that's all it is, isn't it, mate? It's just commitment, Get the feedback. Awesome. Absolutely love that. Right. Let's jump in. I'm going to get my stopwatch. Guys, I'm not being rude and checking my Facebook. If you see me looking off screen, I'm not checking my Facebook. I promise you. I've got my phone and I'm just getting the timer on because I want to make sure I'm not giving Brendan an easy out. Do you know what I mean? I might even do the countdown theme tune, put him under a bit of pressure as well. So I'm going to get the first question up. Okay. So this question was fielded by one of the new coaches within the Elite Coach Network. And it's very simple. What's the best way to get my first client? 5 minutes on the clock, BC. Let's have it.
Well, I understand the question, and it's a natural question to ask when you're first starting out. And I think first things first, I'm pleased the person's asked that question. Am I right in thinking it is Michelle, is it?
Yeah, Michelle asked that one.
So thanks, Michelle, for that. And anybody else listening in who's not in our Elite Coach Network, you should be, because you can get answers to your questions like that. And then you've also got access to Ste and I for any level of question that you want. And if we don't know the answer, what I can promise you is we'll know someone who does. So, Michelle, here's the quick answer to your question. You've already got your first client, and she's called Michelle. And so your first client, your first case study is you, to be the best example for future clients. And in a sense, you are coaching yourself. We're always coaching ourselves, and self-leadership and self-coaching is where it begins. So where do you want to be? What do you want to look like? What do you want to feel like? Answer those questions and start to make it happen. You might need a coach as well, and I would recommend that. So go and find a coach. And why would you pick that coach? And that process of unpacking it is why somebody will pick you. So your first client is you. Your second client, and maybe even third, fourth, and fifth, I would instantly reach out to friends and family and train them for free. Sure, if they can afford to pay you for your time, great. But the payment is not needed in cash necessarily. The payment is in the feedback you get, the testimonial you get, the proof that you get. It's what I call the work for free triad: proof, profile, and the personality element of it as well. So if you've got people that are interested in training, and even if they're not interested in training, go and sell your training and get that proof and get that profile out of it. And then the next side to that would be then actually getting people to transact money with you. And I think that I'd always recommend that wherever you are on your journey, the old hairdressing model type structure is a great way to go. You know, when you walk past the hairdresser window and they say people needed for our apprentices or our newbies, and it's £5 a cut, for example, come down on a Wednesday night. Well, one of the things I think is really relevant with PT and S&C coaching is humility. And I think people do respond to humility. And what I mean by that is if you explain that you're doing your course, or you've just passed your course, or you haven't got a client yet, but you're really passionate, and you combine that with your own training, and you can post about your own training, and you can show and demonstrate the example that you're setting for everybody, I don't think you'll have any problems. Whether you charge a fiver, a tenner, whether you charge £1, and put something together. Think about who you want to serve and what outcome they are seeking, whether it's, example, a fat loss transformation, whether it's a sporting outcome. My own story, and then I'll shut up and let Ste have a couple of minutes.
We've already got 50 seconds left anyway, mate.
Well, all right. Well, I'll let you tackle the next one. My own story is very much down to I just offered services to sports teams, sports clubs. I went and met them at the practices. I turned up. I've always said it's success through pestering. And I think there's a lot to be said about success through pestering. Go and turn up, go and do warm-ups, go and do cool downs, go and speak to the coaches, offer advice, maybe go with a freshly prepared PDF with 5 exercises you'd recommend, and so on and so forth. And always come back to, you are the example that they are really buying. And that is a very, very strong place to finish this question, I think, Steve.
Absolutely spot on, mate. And look at that. Right on the button, mate. Right on the
And
button.
I have no timer at all, I promise you.
Awesome. Michelle, thank you very much for that question. And hopefully that helps. And let us know how you get on with that. You know, if you need any more support, again, reach out. So next one was from Neil. So I struggle to get feedback from my online clients. I have a chat box, a Likert scale. I'd say 2 out of 6 athletes are commenting. Any ideas on how I can improve it?
Yeah, I mean, you've got some really good thoughts on this. I've got no doubt, Steve, but I'm going to keep this one short. This is, I think, one of the biggest mistakes that's made in coaching and the online offline space, and that is in treating people exclusively like online clients and not like human beings. And I'm not having a dig here, and this might not be you at all, but from the question, there is I feel an underpinning lack of communication here. If I was in that position, I would very simply pick up the phone and call those people up on WhatsApp, on whatever means you choose and can reach them. And I would have meaningful conversations with them. And it could be a quick 2 minutes. How are you getting on? Where are you at this week? Or it could be a structured 30 minutes. And while you're building your online structure and while you're building your business, that feedback is what will build your business. Because not only is it going to help you write better programs and serve that person better, it's a much higher level of customer service, and you're over delivering there. You might not have promised that, but you are over delivering. So I wouldn't worry about the time it takes you necessarily. I think what you're trying to do is, it goes back to the last question about how you get paid. Well, in this case, the feedback is payment, because it's giving you an ability to feed forward and create a better structure. Steve, thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is also, if you think about when you've trained athletes or groups of people, you've always got the chatterboxes in the room who are always giving it everything, chatting away, talking, very, very outgoing. Then you've got some athletes who are just head down, crack on, get on with it. And sometimes you think, do they even like being here? Do they even like these sessions? They don't chat. They don't really look like they're enjoying themselves. But so and you're thinking, well, they're actually enjoying it. But when you go and have a conversation with them, they're like, oh, I'm absolutely loving it. They're just not outgoing, or they don't feel like they need to comment. So sometimes it's not a systems thing. It's just actually, well, I'm not going to comment on something if I don't need it. You know, that's not to say it's wrong or bad or anything like that. It's just, if I don't feel I need to give you the feedback, or if I'm not conditioned to give that feedback, then I'm not going to do it. So it might be a bit of an education piece from your side. Like Brendan says, pick up the phone, speak to them, find out why they aren't commenting, or do they understand why it's important to give you that feedback in the first place? If they don't understand the importance, why would they do it? And the second thing is, actually, they wouldn't chat in a chat box, or if in a WhatsApp group. I'm not going to put a message in a WhatsApp group if I don't feel I need to, or I feel like everything's going well. I'm just going to crack on and keep going, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but pick up the phone, over deliver in the early days, get the feedback loop like Brendan says, but also 2 out of the 6, you know, it's 33%. Do you know, if you think of any automated email sending, text replies, sales process and stuff like that, it's around about 20%, the 80-20 principle anyway. So have the conversations, and if they are just cracking on, head down, and they don't feel like they need to chat, it's no dramas. I wouldn't worry too much about it, you know.
Yeah.
Similar as that one, but hopefully that helps, Neil. Hopefully that helps. And like I say, just reach out, have those conversations, and that'll work out well. So good question, that one. Good question. Right. Next one, keeping the show on the road. So, how to brand myself? Struggle to make decisions like where to do sessions, times, costs, what to call my business, teach yoga, coach runners, teach strength. I need to bring it all together. There was a little bit more to this question, but I only have 200 characters, guys, so I can't quite get all of the answer, all of the question in there. But that one's from Julie, and it sounds like she's kind of overthinking and stuff there, but kind of how to brand yourself, what to call yourself, and actually just making some decisions there. That's what it sounds like there as well. So let's get the time on the clock, mate. Ready? Let's do it.
Yeah. So every business, every coach goes through this process. So you're not alone in that regard. I've been through it. Steve's been through it. And as I say, you can't not do. And it really, for me, it really comes back to the vision of where you want to take your business. But I don't think you need to overthink that and overcomplicate it, because you can get paralyzed through that overthinking. And at any point in time, you can rename your business and you can rename your products or services within that business. So again, I don't think you need to worry and overthink that kind of like, I've got to get this right one time. So the vision of, is it you in your business, or is it a brand that you want to grow and bring other people in, is relevant. But at the same time, if you look at people like Matt Roberts in London, he's got a number of PT gyms in London. He's not delivering all the sessions. He's built a brand through his own name. And that's what you can do as well. So it really does come down to where you see this business going, and do you want to continually always be the figurehead? And if that's the case, I think that's great to use your own name or a version of that in there. Or if you want to build a gym or eventually move to a gym and you see that gym being called something different, that's fine as well. And we talk a lot about in the challenge. We're going to do it next week when we talk about what makes you unique. So, yoga, coaching runners and teaching strength, respectfully, is not unique. Lots of people do that. But the way you do it and the personality that you bring to the table definitely is unique. Whether it's your unique blend of energy and personality, whether it's your unique blend of discipline and regimen. So one of the things I would do is I would start to write down words that you think relate to you. It might be that energy piece. It might be that fun. It might be that you like to train women, and all of the things that make you unique in the way that you operate. And then perhaps that is part of your brand. So it could be, something to do with any of those qualities: empowered strength, disciplined strength, whatever that may be. And at the end of this, it's got to resonate with you. You've got to be up for it. You've got to believe in it. And you've got to really get behind that and show the energy. So I've always had my own name, and obviously SCE, Strength and Conditioning Education, kind of does what it says on the tin. But when in my gym, it was Brendan Chaplin Strength and Conditioning, and eventually then moved to Brendan Chaplin Performance. So, and I felt like that's fine. I'm going to push my own brand. I'm going to push my own name, and that's what I did. And I believed in that, and it served me really well. But everybody's different. Give us your story, Steve, because you've got a quite unique name, haven't you, in your gym in Darlow?
Yeah. So the name of my training and coaching is TUNOVA. So TU space NOVA. Nobody actually knows what that means at all, and it translates to new you in Latin. And where that came from was my own story and why I got into coaching. And ultimately, I thought it was a little bit different. It sounded different to new you, but it's something that meant a lot for me, and it was something that I could then get behind and embody. Last night on the immersion session, I shared the Golden Circle by Simon Sinek of the, why do you do something? And I think it's got try and go back to that. Don't get away from what you do, even go past like how you do it. Just go back to why you do what you do, and then ultimately stuff will come out the back of it. Words will fall out, branding will fall out. But I think the sessions, times, cost, what to call your business and all of that, ultimately, it's just you're getting tied up with the how. and, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? There's no right or wrong there. You just need to start doing the days that you let pass by not taking action and doing stuff is it's costing you more than money. It's actually costing you time and feedback. So I would just go back to why you do what you do and ultimately just start doing. It doesn't matter if you do it for 4 weeks in a park and you don't like it, go somewhere else. It's not the end of the world. So,
and I think to finish on that, I totally agree with you. And your name is a safe option, but any of the programs that you run, that you push out there, they can have a little sub brand. And over time, you might realize you've done 5 different services, 5 different programs. One of them you really enjoy. One of them is the one, and that can become your brand. Then you can build a business off that. Like I could have, I did the Lean Body Challenge and Lean Body Britain and all of that kind of stuff. That Lean Body was my sort of sub brand in the kind of fat loss space, if you want to call it that. So, anything's open to you, but you don't need the answers now.
There you go. There you go. Julie, you even got an extra 45 seconds there. Privileged. Right, moving on to the next one. And this one was from Rosie. So Rosie's been on a lot of our programs. And it is it's a common coaching one there. So how do you price your coaching? I've undercharged for years and feel guilty if I consider putting my prices up. There's also a little bit more meat to this. Because she feels guilty and because she's undercharging, she sort of feels like she's caught between a rock and a hard place because she doesn't feel motivated to sell because she knows she's charging, but then she doesn't want to be judged, in her words, if she charges that little bit more. She's working full time. She's got kids, family, and stuff. So this is very much predominantly an online business. So ultimately, it's where do you start with your pricing? And I think there's an undercurrent there. I think it's not the first part of that question. I think it's the undertone to that bit we'll tackle there. I think
that, it is a big question, and I'll start with this. If ever there was a time for you to put your prices up and people understand that price rise, it's now. Because of the macroeconomic climate we're in, and everybody's prices have been going up, and rightly so, because how can you continue to fulfill a service? So if you ever drive to see a client, if you work in a gym, they've probably put their fees up or want to and will do soon. So you need to be pricing that in, so to speak. Everybody's costs have increased, and so have yours. Even if you market on Facebook, that's gone up, and it has continued to just gradually increase over the last 18 to 24 months, with everybody being on it. So you've got a great rationale for it that people will understand, because that's always the question is, how do I justify it? Well, the justification is very, very clear right now. How do you generally price for your coaching? Well, it's not, I'll start with what it isn't. It can't just be this personal trainer costs this much, this personal trainer costs this much, this one's that much, so I'll just fall somewhere in the middle. That is commoditized pricing, and all that will do is put you in a race to the bottom, and you're never really going to make any money. So I understand if you've fallen into that trap, but it's a trap, and the game is to not be in that position and get out. So you got to price on outcome. You've got to price on what you deliver for that person, and value is the key point here. Are you getting and delivering value to your clients? Value that they are prepared to pay for, that's in their eyes way, way over the price that they're paying. So real quick example or comparison would be, you're not comparing your prices with the next personal trainer down the road. You're comparing your price with liposuction and plastic surgery, and your prices are going to be cheaper than that. Let me tell you that. If you want to get liposuction and it gets to that level, and you've got the health issues that warrant that, number one, but also the investment that costs to get that done. You're looking at 5 to 10 grand as a minimum, maybe more. Where do you fit in there? And the benefits of your service and your outcome far outweigh that. What your challenges is speed, because you can go into the clinic, get the procedure, and then on Monday morning you're better, so to speak. I know there's a healing process, but what you've got over that is longevity, because on Monday morning there is no change. You just start to go back to your old habits again. So it's understanding what are you actually delivering here. You know, you're not as a strength coach, SSE coach, you're not competing with people that are just doing random PT stuff. You're delivering somebody an outcome that allows them to have the identity of a champion, or something that they've always dreamed of from when they were a child. So I think let's get that clear. What the outcome, that we've got to be outcome focused, and then we'll look at what is the business model, because it's quite possible that people in your area don't have lots and lots of money. I guarantee that some will. It's always a pyramid. There'll be people that don't want to pay lots at the bottom, and there'll be people that do want to pay lots at the top, especially if you're going into the online space and you're delivering all over. But fit the model to the client and the outcome that you seek and the type of structure that you're working on. The very simply, it's large group, small group, one-to-one. That's the pyramid, and your prices should reflect that. If you're starting to do retreats, if you're starting to do full days with people, that goes above that. That's at the top of the pyramid, and therefore is priced accordingly. And remember that there are people out there paying multiple thousands for 12-week body transformations. So what are they doing that's so much better than what you're able to deliver? And if you're going to compare yourself to anyone, compare yourself to those guys that are charging multiple thousands to achieve that service. But you know, on the flip side, you've got Joe Wicks, and I'm not sure if he still does this, but his business model for a long time was £150 for his sort of personalized nutrition program. And guess what? He'd fit the model to his market. He'd got an Instagram market, and he'd built a brand, he'd built a persona. But that 150 is a massively, massively palatable investment for him to make, for the client to make. And I guarantee if somebody will have messaged, having gone through that, or said to Joe, I don't want your 12-week guide, I want you. And I wouldn't be surprised if he put a ridiculous price tag on that somebody paid, Steve. And on that, I'll pass it to you, because I think I've gone on a bit long there.
No, that's absolutely spot on. And I think all I would say is just one quote by Jim Rohn: is work full time on your job and part time on your fortune. Fortune looks very, very different for individuals. I think I would have just addressed the relationship you've got with the price and stuff like that. But ultimately, I think work full time on your job, part time on your fortune. Your fortune can be the impact as well as the income that you're making. So address those, mate, and also follow what Brendan said there. So, guys, we're going to move on to the last question. And this one was from Natalie. Now, this was quite a long-winded one. So, again, I've only got 200 characters, so I distilled it down. So, basically, a bit of backstory at this, guys. Her athlete got injured. She had trials coming up. She got through those trials, but it was, how do I know if my athlete's prepared enough for trials after coming back from injury? And she was talking about kind of the neural crossover. So when you train the uninjured limb, you get a 10% carry over to the injured limb. So she was chatting a little bit about that as well. But basically, how do you know if your athlete's prepared enough for a trial or a sport coming back from injury?
Yeah, so the return to there's two key things here: is return to training and return to play or return to sport. So they're very different things. And I'm not certain what, is it Natalie, did you say, Steve?
Yeah, it was Natalie.
I'm not certain what Nat's referring to, what trials is. But, well, she's saying sport, but both of these really comes down to KPIs and having a really good set of KPIs that relate to that sport and the training process of that. As a general rule, I would say it's not a good thing. You can't skip the return to training phase and return to sport. That even if you can hit the KPIs, there's an adaptation, there's a return to training, and a process to bring somebody to the sport, because the sport is always more intense and there's more variables and uncontrollables in a sporting contest. So you need the KPIs, and then you need to work backwards from those KPIs. So I'll give you an example for mixed martial arts fighters. There's a lot of KPIs that we used to use, but one of them was the shuttle run burpee test that I did. So 8 meters sprint, a 2 meter turn zone each side, and they dropped to their belly and then bounced back up. And we did it in a 30 on 30 second bouts. And they had to get a set number of burpees, touches each round. And we did 3x5 or 5x5. And I knew that if they hit the right number of burpees, they had the work capacity to fulfill and perform that function, that part of the contest. It doesn't mean that they were strong enough. It doesn't mean that they were mobile enough and powerful enough. They're different KPIs, but you get my point. That's a very specific endurance test that I used to use, and you can then work backwards from that and say, well, therefore that's what I want 2 weeks out. So what is realistic 4 to 6 weeks out, and then 6 to 10 weeks out? And on that specific endurance work capacity pathway, let's call it, that's your plot. And then you'd have a similar one for relative body strength. You'd have a similar one for power production, med ball throws, weightlifting, etc., etc. Yeah, I did a lot of specific stuff, and that last phase will be more specific for most sports. And this can be mapped to any sport. And you can read all the journals you want, but in reality, you have to start that with the laboratory that you've got, which is your own group of clients and athletes. So if you run in a Thai boxing gym in the north of England, or if you run in a cage fighting gym in London, or if you run in a rugby training program in your gym now, you train in runners, every single one of them is essentially a case study, and you should have and start monitoring that now. And so really what you want to be able to do it here is turn back the clock and say, well, where were they last year? What does that data show? And every year you can try and set the bar a little bit higher, but understanding that at some point you can't set the bar higher because they have other conflicting demands, and you then push in injury more and more and more. So it comes back to KPIs and understanding that return to training versus return to sport or play, 2 different things. And if you chuck somebody in too late, even if they can hit the KPIs, they won't have the underpinning work capacity, adaptation, and ability to survive those sporting contests. What are your thoughts? Any other things that you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it goes back to having that bit of data. It goes back to setting your standards, what an athlete can and can't do, what's the demands of the sport, and try and get that. Like I use something simple with single leg for kind of single leg athletes or court sports athletes, using the Poliquin step. Very, very basic. How many reps can they do in a minute? Again, addresses that work capacity of kind of quarter squat, just constant movement. You get to see what's the work capacity of the hip and the knee, the VMO and stuff as well. So just start building out those, and then you've got your standards that you can constantly hit and work towards. That would be kind of my key thing there. And there's always going to be times when sometimes you do have to chuck people in. We've seen it in pro sport, chuck people in when they're not 100% right, but once they've done that event, it's making sure that you pull them back in and get them through that process as well. But we probably unpack that one a little bit more on another ECL because it's quite a big one. There's lots of different scenarios and stuff, and I'll try and get one of the physio guys on for that one. I'll pick try and get Charmaine's on that one, and we'll pick that one a little bit more for you, Natalie, because it's a really good question. It's a common one for coaches to go through as well. But so, guys, that has been 5 questions, 5 minutes on each one. As always, just drop us the questions, guys. We'll make sure that we get them answered for you. Okay. As always, reach out as you need us. Brendan, it's been a pleasure as always. I know you've got to shoot off, mate, so much appreciated for that. Guys, make sure that you do subscribe. Make sure that you ring the bell on Spotify. Make sure that you do like us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, so you do not miss any of those. And as always, guys, have a fantastic week. Go out there and smash it, and we'll catch up again on the next one.